much a product type that is in huge demand across the country. It offers great affordability, but it's something that we're just not supplying to the market enough of. And as a result of that, when they are complete and built around the country, we see tremendous results from a rental and capital growth perspective. So I look forward to talking to you about that. And then we will, of course, finish with Willow Terraces, our opportunity today in the suburb of North Lakes. So let's get stuck into why Brisbane. Firstly, I want to talk about the economy, because a lot of people are a bit nervous around the economy at the moment. We've had 400 basis points of cash rate hikes since May last year, and a lot of people are a little bit nervous around what's happening in the economy. Now, thankfully, the economy is not heading to a hard recession. Not a lot, but some people were concerned that might be happening. But the economy is starting to cool slightly, which is fantastic. Inflation is coming off, which is excellent. But the economies are still incredibly robust. And in the most recent State of the State reports released by the Commonwealth Bank, CommBank, which compares each of the states to their previous 10-year average, we've got some excellent results for Queensland. So importantly, compared to the last 10 years, Queensland is actually the strongest growth state when it comes to population. So its population is booming, as I think most of you will be aware, seeing lots of migrants move from the southern states, as well as now obviously international migration. And importantly, economic growth. Queensland has actually got the second strongest economic growth compared to the previous 10-year average when compared to the other states around the country. So from an economic perspective, Queensland is doing really, really well, which is fantastic to see. And that is indeed reflected in its unemployment rate, which as at June of this year, the unemployment rate was sitting at 3.7%, which is, as you can see here, 37% below the 10-year average. So we've got an incredibly healthy unemployment rate. Wages are going up in Queensland across the country, as we know. So the economy in Queensland is doing really, really well. And this obviously gives buyers confidence when they're looking to transact and invest, whether that be to own or occupy or to invest in a market. So the fact that the Queensland economy is doing very well at the moment bodes really, really nicely for the property market. Now, in addition to the strength of the economy, we've also got population growth really going through the roof. This was highly publicised through COVID, predominantly because we had so many Sydney and Melburnians moving north of the border into Queensland, and that really supported the population growth of Queensland at a time when there was limited or no international migration. So as you can see here, during the COVID period, net overseas migration, which are these gold bars here, they fell away, or yellowy bars, they fell away, but the interstate migration really picked up, which supported the growth through here. And now we're past COVID, we see international migration return in these columns in yellow. And as a result, the post-COVID population growth levels are 45% higher than pre-COVID. So you can see here, pre-COVID, we were looking at just under 20,000, and we're now at 28,500 per quarter moving into the state of Queensland. This is absolutely huge numbers. It is a reflection of the strength of the economy. People are moving there because of the jobs, but they're also moving there because of affordability and, of course, lifestyle. So we've got a strong economy, we've got strong population growth, but what's really concerning is that at the moment we have got really, really low levels of supply. This is a national issue, but when we take a look at Queensland, we take a look at the number of dwellings that have been approved across the state, we can see that they have declined 37% since March 2020. So in just over 2 years, we've seen a 40% reduction in the amount of dwellings that are being approved across this market. Now, today we've got a really tight vacancy rate, and I'll talk to that in the next slide. We've got a tight rental market. And what's concerning is that today we've got these levels of approvals being completed. Okay, so these approvals, they were approved through council. It then takes anywhere from 12, 24 months, maybe 36 months for that product to be built. So this product that was approved about 2 years ago, realistically, is settling over the last 6 months, the next 6 months, maybe a little bit beyond that. And it's simply not keeping up. The supply is not keeping up with the volume of population growth that we've got, and that's why the vacancy rate and rental market is so tight. My concern is, and certainly I think a lot of people's concern, is that what happens in 2 years' time, because migration is remaining high, but these numbers have dropped. And in 2 years' time, we will go from basically 4,000 properties a quarter entering the market down to 2,500. A massive reduction, massive population growth. For me, it's very obvious what's happening in this market. We are going to see a continual shortage of property in Queensland. And as a result, personally, I purchased in Queensland off the plan late last year. I'll be settling in 2025 because I know that in 2 years' time, the housing crisis is going to be worse than it is today. Okay, we know this is not good. It's not a good thing around the country, but for investors, there is an opportunity here. And this is your looking glass into the future. We can see what's coming on this slide. So let's take a look at the rental market today. This is what's happening in the market today. And the vacancy rate, for those of you who aren't aware, the vacancy rate it's actually my favorite statistic. I'm a stats guy, as you might be able to figure out. This is my favorite statistic. It tells us whether a market is oversupplied or undersupplied. And the definition of a balanced market, or the most widely accepted term of a balanced market, is a vacancy rate of 3%. Okay, so it basically means that 3% of properties are available for rent, which means that tenants have choice, but not too much choice. And they're able to find a property, and landlords are able to find a tenant. Okay, so you see rents typically under that scenario, they will tick up slowly over time. Okay, but you don't see massive rental growth, but you also don't see massive rental declines. But what we've got at the moment is pre-COVID, it was under a balanced market. So it was tighter than a balanced market. It was a landlord's market. You could essentially put rents up every year. But since COVID, it peaked a little bit, but it's continued to decline. And since February last year, 2022, we've been at or below 1% vacancy rates. So the rental market is red hot. It continues to be red hot. As we come into spring and into the summer months, I certainly believe we will see this number drop again, which we do generally each summer season because that's when people move. So we've got an incredibly tight rental market. That is leading to rental growth. And as I've said, over the next 2 years, we're going to have continued population growth. We don't have enough property coming online in terms of new supply. And so the writing is on the wall, guys. In 2 years' time, the housing crisis is going to be worse, but investors will reap the benefits. Now, this slide here, there's a bit of data on this slide, so let's work through it bit by bit. Firstly, this part of the slide on the left here, this is the total rental listings across Greater Brisbane from March to August, March 2020 to August 2023. Okay, so pre-COVID through to today. Houses, we've seen a reduction of 34%, and units, we've seen a reduction of 51%. Absolutely massive. So if you were looking at, say, 6 apartments to rent, there are now only 3. If you were looking at 2 apartments to rent, there's now only 1. It's a massive reduction, and that's why we've seen rents boom so aggressively in Brisbane. Let's take a look at this. This statistic overwhelms me. Rental prices have increased 47% for houses and 44% for units from March 2020 to August 2023. That is absolutely dramatic. And what I love about this is that Brisbane for a long time has been sitting at a 4 to 5% rental yield. Houses typically 4%, units typically 5%. As you can see today, units are sitting at about 5.4%. What's amazing about this stat is that if you had a property, let's say in March 2020, and it was at a 4% yield for a house, today you're probably looking at a 6% yield on that property. If you were looking at a 5% yield on a unit, you're probably now looking at a 7 to 7.5% rental yield over what is a 2-year period, or 3-year period. It's absolutely incredible rental growth, and this is going to continue to occur, perhaps not at this same rate of growth, but just given the shortage of properties we've got in this state, in this city, I certainly believe, and most commentators believe, the rental growth is going to continue. And so it's, as I say, it's a great time to be investing in something that I've done personally. I've put my money where my mouth is, where so many of our strategists and staff behind the scenes do. We put our money where our mouth is. So at the moment today, houses, we're looking at 820,000, the median price, and units, which is typically apartments, but does also include townhouses, are sitting at a median of 520 across the market. Now, for those of you who are sitting on the fence, you're not sure what's happening in the market, you're not sure, is now the right time, maybe I should wait. Well, this slide is going to wake you up, because the market is already moving. Since the trough of the market was January, February of this year for Brisbane, that's when the bottom of the market was. Since then, Brisbane has grown by 4.6%. Okay? So if you've been sitting around waiting, you've already missed out. You've already missed out on 4.6% growth over what is basically a 6-month period. Now, we've still got half the year to go, and next year alone, Commonwealth Bank has forecast capital growth of 7% for this market. So for those of you sitting on your hands, take in this information. There is growth. It is happening. I believe it's going to continue to happen. Australia's largest bank, the Commonwealth Bank, believe it is going to continue to happen. And that is, it all comes down to supply and demand. We've got massive demand for migration, and as we've seen, we've got very, very low supply. So guys, please don't sit on the fence any longer. Now is the time to act. Now is the time to get into this market. I believe it's going to just continue to go. I really do, and obviously it's got a driving factor behind that, and that of course is the Brisbane 2032 Olympics. We are now less than 9 years away from the Olympic Games commencing. They commence in July. I think it's late July. I think it's the 22nd of July, in fact. So we are less than 9 years away, and every year that you wait, you are missing out on growth. Because every year the pressure builds in this market, people are going to want to get in, and naturally prices will go up. That's my belief, and that's why I'm investing heavily in this market. So that's the question. Have you got your piece of Brisbane to take advantage of what is a once in a lifetime, maybe twice in a lifetime, if you're lucky, investment opportunity, investing in an Olympic city? Now, that's my market wrap on Brisbane. The fundamentals are sound, guys. Next year, we are looking at rate cuts. We've got the 4 big banks all forecasting rate cuts. We've got inflation coming down rapidly. I think over the next 6 months, that's going to continue to decline. And ultimately, the RBA is going to be nervous and is going to have to look to cut rates to ensure the economy doesn't slip into a position that it doesn't want it to be in. So let's take a look. Commonwealth Bank predicts 4 rate cuts by the end of next year. Westpac, 6 rate cuts by the end of 2025. ANZ, only 1 rate cut next year. We'll wait and see. They're the odd one out. And NAB, 4 to 5 rate cuts by early 2025. Excuse me. So next year, if this occurs, this is going to further turbocharge the property market. Everyone's borrowing capacity will be increasing, and it will, I believe, it's going to further drive the growth of this market, in addition to obviously migration outstripping supply. Okay, so that's the market wrap. Let's talk about townhouses.